Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're doing a deep dive into a really unique historical document. It's the Equinox, Volume 1, Number 2, from way back in September 1909.
Hmm.
And this wasn't just, any old magazine. It called its aim Scientific Illuminism.
Right, a pretty bold term,
Yeah.
merging the method of science with the aim of religion.
Exactly. And its mission, seriously audacious. It claimed to offer a shortcut to spiritual experience.
And not just that, but even producing genius to order. And talk about ambition.
Totally. So to really get our heads around this, we need to look at how they tried to do it. It's multifaceted, precise rituals, some pretty daring drug experiments, and some really arcane philosophy too.
Well, that's what's so fascinating, isn't it? How the text explores these different, sometimes frankly contradictory paths to this spiritual experience. So on one hand, you get these incredibly detailed, like very practical, mystical rituals.
Practical how?
Well, take Liber O, for example. It gives specific instructions for things like the Kabbalistic cross and pentagram invocations.
Okay, so for anyone less familiar, those are sort of structured ritual gestures and words.
Precisely. Central to certain types of ceremonial magic, using specific names like Elohim for fire, El for water, Adonai for earth, each name tied to specific forces in the Kabbalistic system.
And the goal of all this.
Intense mental control, essentially, to confront, as they put it, things too glorious or too dreadful to be described, but crucially, to remain master of it all.
Wow, that sounds intense. Almost like a kind of spiritual engineering manual. But
Yeah.
how did they verify success? If the goal is such deep mental control and these huge experiences, was it just subjective feeling? Or were they looking for objective proof?
That's a great question, and it really hits the core challenge, right? Applying scientific methods to purely subjective experience. The Equinox kind of suggests the results are internal, a heightened awareness, maybe expanded consciousness, or just this profound self-mastery.
Correct.
But then it just takes a sharp turn. You get articles like The Psychology of Hashish.
I saw that.
And this isn't just some casual story. It's presented as a personal scientific investigation by someone called Oliver Haddo, looking at hashish as a potential key to knowledge.
So, okay, a deep dive into altered states, but with this demand for scientific rigor. That seems unexpected alongside the magic rituals.
Exactly. And he meticulously categorizes the effects. He breaks it down.
How so?
He describes this volatile, aromatic stage, mainly for introspection, then a toxic hallucinative phase where thoughts just overwhelm the ego, and he even hints at a cataleptic state.
Wow.
He goes even further, suggesting that maybe combining mystical exaltation, that high state from ritual, with the drug could actually dissolve the matrix of the diamond soul.
Dissolve the matrix. What's that mean in their terms? Break down the ego.
Yeah, basically breaking down the conventional self, the ego, maybe to reveal something deeper, more fundamental, kind of primal spiritual essence.
But he adds warnings, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He's very clear. He stresses the need for scientific standardization in using it.
Yeah.
And he warns, quite sternly actually, about the dangers of obsession. It had to be disciplined.
That's such a striking contrast. This call for controlled, almost clinical drug exploration right next to ancient magic. But if consciousness itself is the subject, how does the Equinox try to quantify or categorize these experiences beyond, personal reports and ritual steps?
That's where it gets even more complex. Because for all its scientific talk, it also tries to understand things through completely different, sometimes really arcane lenses.
Like what?
Well, take a note on Genesis. This goes deep into Kabbalistic numerology.
Gematria and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, signing numbers to letters.
Exactly. The ancient mystical idea of finding hidden meanings in numbers. So here the text tries to link the numeration of Elohim, a name for God, which adds up to 86 to pi, 3.1415.
The mathematical constant.
Seriously.
Yeah.
They propose this connection as evidence for some kind of divine geometry underpinning the whole universe. That's a huge intellectual leap, really.
Okay, that's quite a reach from ritual and drug reports. And then you get something that seems to just veer wildly off course from all of that. That section called the man cover. That one's, well, it's pretty unsettling.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, contrast all that careful ritual and numerology with the man cover. It's genuinely bizarre, disturbing even. In this story, a man, through this incredibly convoluted, extreme form of logic, convinces himself he is actually a coffin cover.
A coffin cover?
Yes, and then he justifies kidnapping people, even dismembering them. Not out of malice, but because he's desperately searching for a replacement body to fit his mighty box of lofty thoughts.
That's incredibly dark. and strain.
It is. It's this stark, almost unhinged exploration of identity, of purpose.
Yeah.
And it includes this scathing critique of poets like Longfellow and Tennyson, calling them superficial twaddlers.
Why attack them?
The piece basically asserts that real mystical phenomena, real insight, needs a high-class and healthy brain. It leads to fortitude, strength, not what it dismisses as maudlin and hysterical gush.
Wow. Okay, that is truly unsettling, especially right alongside calls for scientific standardization we talked about earlier. So how does a story like that, so disturbing and almost nihilistic, fit into this big idea of scientific illuminism? Is it meant as a warning or some kind of really twisted enlightenment through absurdity?
Well, I think it's precisely that tension that defines the equinox, really.
Yeah.
Seems to suggest that maybe all paths, even the most extreme, the most intellectually challenging, even the disturbing ones, could potentially lead to insight. If, and it's a big if, they're approached with a certain kind of mental discipline and a rejection of conventional sentimentality.
So pushing the boundaries of what's even considered a valid way to explore yourself and the universe.
Exactly that, pushing boundaries hard.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening now? This deep dive into the equinox, it shows more than just a, historical oddity. It's this radical experiment from over a century ago. And it really challenges our modern ideas about truth, knowledge, and where science ends and maybe spirituality begins, or if they even have to be separate. It really makes you ask, in your own search for understanding, do you ever unconsciously limit yourself? Stick to the approved pathways? Could you be overlooking unconventional methods, maybe even uncomfortable ones, in your own pursuit of truth? And if you dared to explore those edges, how would you draw the line between rigorous inquiry and, well, unbridled imagination, or even outright madness? Something to think about.